Rev up your engines! Alright, people are whining that the price of used cars has gone totally insane, but if you look around, it's not always as bad as you think. Customer just bought this for his daughter. It's a 2003 Honda Accord with 90-something thousand miles on it. He paid $3,500. You got a pretty good deal, even during this coronavirus pandemic, if you use your head and price around. And hilariously enough, he got this at a used car lot. It was a trade-in at a Honda dealer. Then they sold it to the used car lot who sold it to him for $3,500. He's a combat veteran, just recently retired. He got this for his daughter. He spent a lot of time, months and months, till he found this thing. Take your time when you're looking for a used car. Now, of course, for his daughter, you don't want an ugly looking car. Check around, make sure it's not all bashed in. In this case, it's not. It's still got the original Honda wheels. And this could do with a little buffing up, but that's no big deal. Car's actually in excellent shape. And of course, he was smart. He checked underneath, and there's no leak, nothing's leaking, no fluids. And the interior, they claimed it was a one-owner car, an older man, I believe it. It's only got 92,000 miles on it. It's in really good shape. Lots of room in these Accords. They were great cars. Well, Honda, you turn the key, starts right up. The AC blows freezing cold. No, it isn't all the car, so you got a 6-disc CD changer. It does still work. But in this case, the check engine light is on, even though it runs okay, so let's check it out. Plug the out scan tool in. Now, this particular Honda Accord was made in Ohio in the United States, 1993. Now realize Honda's been making cars in Ohio since 1982. They've been making them there a long time. It's a big headquarters. I've been there. It's an amazing facility. So even though it's not made in Japan, these are still excellent vehicles. Now we'll look at the code, and it's P0141 about the oxygen sensor heater. Now the car runs perfectly fine. What happens is, years ago, they made the car oxygen sensors have little heaters in them because it would warm up faster. So for like the first minute and a half of you driving a car, it doesn't pollute too much, right? It's a real nitpicky thing. Well, generally the circuits burn out in the oxygen sensor, but that only affects the startup of the car with a little more pollution. It really isn't going to affect the running of the car. We're going to look at the oxygen sensor data to see what's happening. We'll check out the Honda OEM Enhanced and the live data. Here's the oxygen sensor output. We'll do a graph of it. Supposed to go up and down. Guess what? It's going up and down. We'll rev the engine up. You can see it's going up and down. So in this case, the oxygen sensor itself's working perfectly fine. It's just that it isn't heating up fast enough. You could drive a car 100 years this way, isn't going to hurt anything. The guy lives here in Clarksville, Tennessee. They don't do emissions testing, so he doesn't care that the stupid check engine light is on with that stupid code. If you live where they do inspections, you would have to replace bank 1, sensor 2, the oxygen sensor, by a catalytic converter, and the code would go away unless it had burned out the circuit or burned out driver control inside the computer or the wiring went bad. Generally, it's always the heater goes out. But all that does is affect the startup for the first minute or so of the car, so he doesn't care. He's gonna live with it. He's been driving it for a couple of months like this, no problems other than the stupid check engine light stays on. So that's no big deal. Let's do an all module scan now. There it is, right there. Push go. That's going to scan everything. These Honda Accords are rugged vehicles. They're strong engines, and the transmission is an automatic. It's one that Honda built themselves. Honda's been making those trannies great. They had problems in the past, but they don't have problems anymore. They got a good engineering company. Now the transmission is a 5-speed automatic that Honda makes. They're excellent transmissions. They get good power and good gas mileage combination. They got a lot of zip to them, but they get decent gas mileage. You could get a little better gas mileage by having a tranny that was a little bit sluggish, but people like these cars because they're zippy. It has 160 horsepower, but it's also got a very good variable valve timing system that Honda invented. Well, now the computer's done. It's got one code for fuel injection module. Let's see what that says. Aha! It's the same code. It's the oxygen heater sensor. So like it said, it doesn't affect the running of the car. Who cares? And it also has 2 body electrical codes. Let's see what they are. Honda relay module, lost communication. Basically codes that don't mean all that much. They get aged. Sometimes the computers lose power through a relay or something. The car runs fine, stops fine, who cares? So let's take it for a road test. See if you got his $3,000 worth, $3,500. So I'll take it for a spin, and the first thing I noticed, put it in drive, what happens? Nothing. It doesn't shake anymore. It's still smooth even though it's old. And once we get going down the road, this thing still got the original struts on it. It doesn't ride bad at all. Hondas were always fun, driving, comfortable cars. if you get in an Accord. It handles twisties fine, no problem at all, zooming around. And as I drive, everything sounds normal. I don't hear any roaring wheel bearings or engine or transmission bearings. Still a pretty quiet car. Now this guy is a retired infantryman, so you know, he's not rich. He spent a lot of time researching this to get a nice car for his daughter. The guy knew what he was doing. So let's come to a stop and see how much of this 160 horsepower are still left in this thing. And here we go. Once the VVT kicks in, still shifts smooth, got decent acceleration. Of course it's not breakneck acceleration, but it's zippy. It's fun to drive, and they're pretty safe vehicles. This is his daughter's first car. He made a pretty good choice. Personally, I'd have no qualms about jumping in this car and driving it to California. The only thing it really needs is a new fan belt, or drive belt, to be politically correct. It's still a very fun car to take out in the country and drive in the twisties or stop and go traffic. It's got no problems at all. Really, I'm amazed at how smooth it still idles. The engineers knew what they were doing when they built this 4-cylinder Accord. And the AC? It's still freezing cold. It's hot and humid today. It's gonna rain some more. Honda's had AC problems in the past, but not on these later model Honda Accords. They're pretty bulletproof. I just fixed a 99 Accord. The compressor still worked. All it did was have an electrical problem and I rewired it, and it still blew cold from a 99. Hey, the brakes still work fine. None of the suspension parts are even creaking. I'd say this retired infantryman did a good job for his daughter's first car. Like I say, he admitted he spent months looking for the thing. He just didn't go out and snatch the first thing he saw. He got himself a good deal for $3,500 in this coronavirus pandemic. The prices have gone nuts, so don't be totally disheartened and say, oh, I can't get a car, the prices are too high. There's still some deals out there if you have cash. He paid cash. So really, if you can find a car like this, and the only thing that really needs to be done is a new fan belt, drive belt, whatever you call it. You can see it's all cracked on the inside there, so it's time to change it. If you can find a Honda Accord like this with less than 100,000 miles for $3,500 and the only thing it needs is a fan belt, snap that baby up. Yeah, the check engine light was on, but hey, a lot of times you can take that to your advantage and get the car cheaper if you live somewhere else, so you got to buy an oxygen sensor. Advance Auto has the original equipment Denso. This is the oxygen sensor. Bank 1 sensor 2, the one after the catalytic converter. It's not the airflow sensor meter, it's just an oxygen sensor. They charge a whopping $34.49 for the original equipment Denso one. Not a Bosch aftermarket one, the actual one. Now, if it had been the front oxygen sensor, that's actually what's called the air-fuel ratio sensors. They cost well over $100. Some of them are $250. But this is just the back one. But since it only affects the startup of the car, who cares? He lives in Clarksville, he doesn't need to get it inspected. So he didn't have to do that at all. But if he wants to, hey, he can spend $35 and screw it on himself. So what's the moral of this story? Well, even during this pandemic, you can get a good used car if you take your time. Like he did, he took months. Use your head. You can still save a lot of money getting a great used car. $3,500 for this car, runs like a dream. Can't beat that. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Kevin B4 says, I just bought a 07 Toyota with 94,000 miles. The strut boots are torn, but the car runs fine. Should I get new boots, new struts, or let them be? If it rides okay, let them be. Those boots that are inside the struts are merely dust shields to keep dust from getting on the rod, and they don't work perfectly anyways. They don't seal all that much. When they finally wear out, yeah, buy the boots and kits and a strut kit to replace the canister inside. Buy all the parts you need. Probably buy a strut mount too for each one of them when you change them. But since it's just a dust shield, in order to replace it, you got to take the strut off. You got to take it all apart, disassemble it, put a new boot, put it all back together. If you're going to go through all that trouble, you might as well put a new strut and canister inside it anyway. So I would just wait. Because with 94,000 miles, the Matrix is, those things can last off in a lot longer than that and still ride okay. If it still rides okay, just leave it alone. If you want to make it last a little longer, get some AT205 reseal. Comes in a can. Put it in a spray bottle, spray there, and that will rejuvenate the rubber on the seal and make it last as long as possible. Just where the rod goes in and out on the strut, the seal's on the top, just spray AT205 on it 4 or 5 times a year, and it will keep the rubber lasting longer. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.